Hello, everyone, and welcome. For this ICTR Enrichment Series seminar, we are excited to have three guest speakers from our campus Center for Information Technology Services, CITS, including the Senior VP of CITS, as well as the Senior Associate VP and Deputy CIO. CITS is the Central Information Technology Organization for the university that develops and maintains our mission-critical enterprise systems and technologies, including those essential to human resources, our payroll, finance, student, email, research, teaching and learning, network infrastructure, web, and telecommunications. CITS services and resources are far too broad to review during this presentation, so I encourage you to visit their website, and I will be adding that link in the chat for you to explore. Just a little bit of housekeeping at the end of this presentation. You will be redirected to our satisfaction survey, and we welcome your thoughts, input about future presentations. Also, regarding questions, we will reserve the last 10 to 15 minutes or so for questions. We invite you to add those to the chat feature, and we will review those at the end. Now, I have the great pleasure of introducing you to our panel of speakers, beginning with Dr. Peter Murray, Senior VP of CITS. Dr. Murray is responsible for overseeing CITS and coordinating campus-wide information technology, including policies, committees, and the overall strategy for the university, ensuring that these resources are utilized efficiently, securely, and in line with UMB's goals and objectives. Since beginning his tenure at UMB over 20 years ago, Dr. Murray has been an active participant in many advisory groups such as EDUCAUSE, Internet2, and industry advisory groups, councils, and committees, including chairing the Higher Education Information Security Council for EDUCAUSE. He has introduced many state-of-the-art security best practices to safeguard UMB systems and data, and has made numerous presentations regarding many different aspects of information technology. Our second panelist is Dr. Brian Coates, who serves as the Senior Associate VP and Deputy Chief Information Officer for CITS. Dr. Coates' leadership responsibilities include project management, identity management and system integration, web applications and development, IT training and communications, IT support and software licensing, central administration, IT support services, and more. Dr. Coates has also been servicing UMB for over 20 years, introducing and leading many critical IT projects, including UMID, the My UMB portal, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, the community system, UMB alerts, and the UMB help desk. And our third guest speaker from CITS is Braden Bierman. Mr. Bierman is the Senior IT Cloud Infrastructure Architect for Research Computing here at CITS. And his tenure has just started with CITS just in the last year and a half, and we're really excited to have him here joining the UMB team and helping to implement and steer the SRE secure research environment that we will be discussing. So I'm going to now turn this presentation over to Dr. Peter Murray. Thank you, Dr. Murray.
Thank you, Wanda, for introducing us and for the invitation to this ICTR Enrichment Seminar. We are looking forward to having a conversation with those who are joining this session this afternoon regarding UMB's secure research environment. We have prepared a presentation that highlights some of the key features and benefits of this breakthrough technology for UMB researchers, explaining how we got where we are today and plans for the future. One of the exciting and gratifying aspects of what UMB has done to develop this environment is that other research universities are now replicating it to support researchers at their institutions. Next slide, please. One of the driving forces for developing the secure research environment is the cyber world that we all live in today, and the cybersecurity challenges that are affecting companies, organizations, institutions, and individuals worldwide. The cybersecurity challenges that we're facing today in protecting UMB systems and data are unprecedented. Individuals use more devices than ever before, and all of these devices are being targeted by cyber criminals. Any device that is connected to the internet has a risk of being compromised, and it is more difficult than ever before to protect these devices from constant threats and attacks from these criminals. The pandemic exacerbated the problem with more individuals working remotely, with many different devices connecting back to systems that are managed and monitored by the institution. It was especially difficult to monitor and manage endpoint security. That is, to know that an individual's machine in their remote location is fully patched and protected while they are connected to UMB systems and data. Next slide, please. The number of attacks that we receive on a daily basis has increased exponentially over the past 5 years. More than ever before, we must be diligent, careful, and wary in the protection of UMB systems and sensitive data that we have access to. These are some of the statistics regarding cyber attacks and preventative measures that UMB deals with every single day. These numbers don't even include the attacks that our vendor partners receive that manage UMB applications and systems in their cloud infrastructures. Every day, as you can see on this slide, UMB receives about 300 million attempts where cyber criminals are trying to get access to UMB systems and to your UMB-owned computer and your data. Approximately 70 million of those attempts are blocked immediately because they are known cybersecurity threats. We receive approximately 1.2 million emails daily, and about 200,000 of those are blocked immediately because they are harmful messages. And even using sophisticated technologies as we do, we don't catch all the junk and phishing messages. As you know, there are spam and junk email messages that still make it to our inboxes. Next slide, please. We do need to apply the sophisticated security technologies and monitor threats daily to protect sensitive data. And we also need to have a strong security because it is imposed on us by federal and state agencies. Federal and state laws have imposed strict rules and requirements on institutions for protecting sensitive information. You are probably familiar with HIPAA privacy and security requirements and the new Maryland state privacy law. But there are other federal and state rules and regulations that institutions must follow. A data breach negatively affects institutions in many ways, and a breach will also affect individuals, including researchers who could potentially lose current or future federal or state funding if proper preventative measures aren't taken to protect the data that they were granted to use by a federal or state agency. And very importantly, each of us has a responsibility for protecting personally identifiable information, since there is a constant daily threat from cyber criminals who are trying to steal PII that we have access to. Next slide, please. Some of you may be thinking, what does he mean by sensitive data? This slide shows you the Maryland state definition of personally identifiable information, PII, or in other words, sensitive data, which not only includes protected health information, but also social security number, driver's license, account numbers, biometric data, and even a username in combination with other personal identifiers. UMB is required to protect this type of data from unauthorized access, not only because of federal and state rules and requirements to do so, but also because if stolen, individual identities and personal information will be compromised and sold by cyber criminals for financial gain. Next slide, please. So managing risk to the institution and to individuals is critically important. Sensitive data used for research is high risk. We must have appropriate measures in place to secure access to sensitive data to achieve compliance and to protect it from misuse, while at the same time achieving an appropriate balance of security and ease of access so that faculty researchers can effectively perform their studies and undertake their research. Next slide, please. Given the growth in cyber threats and attacks and risks associated with using sensitive data for research, the University of Maryland Medical System and UMB recognized the need for establishing a data use agreement pertaining to sensitive clinical data in the EPIC system, maintained by UMMS and used by UMB faculty researchers. This DUA specifies the need for a comprehensive, university-sponsored and managed environment that would securely store EPIC data for use by faculty researchers. It needs to be an environment where the data could be securely fed or moved from EPIC to the secure environment, where researchers would access the environment securely, and where researchers would also have access to the compute power, research tools and software, and data storage that they need to do their research. This DUA was fully executed by UMMS and UMB on May 1st, 2022. Next slide, please. At the same time the DUA was being developed, we heard the exciting news that the Institute for Health Computing was being established. There were a lot of moving parts and considerations in forming the IHC, and one piece that was needed for the IHC to be operational was having a secure computing environment so that IHC faculty researchers could use it to perform their research. We were pressed at that time to move expeditiously in designing and building this secure research environment to comply with the requirements in the UMMS UMB DUA and to provide a secure computing environment for use by faculty working in the IHC. Next slide, please.
Good afternoon. I'll start and go through a few, and then I'll hand it off to my colleague Braden. So as Peter mentioned, when we first started trying to design the SRE technically, we had already taken just a general IT approach across all aspects of IT a number of years before, something that's referred to as a cloud-first approach. And so certainly when we were faced with designing the SRE, we followed that same model. Something that cloud-first approach brings it to play that compared to traditional computing is just the ability to have way more flexibility, scalability. You're not locked into any one thing. You're not making a long-term commitment to any one configuration. And we knew that the nature of the secure research environment was one that it would for sure start one place, and it would evolve. And we wanted to make sure that we had a platform that could very quickly adapt and evolve along with the needs that researchers had. And so that was kind of an easy decision for us to make. We also had an extremely strong partnership with Microsoft. And so it made a natural conclusion for us to design the SRE to be hosted in Microsoft Azure and to work through just the evolution of the SRE as it came to us. And we'll get into that a little bit further as we get deeper into the presentation. Next slide, please. All right, so the real kind of guiding principle of the SRE was the data use agreement that Peter mentioned, which is really focused on data security and privacy. We wanted to both have security from malicious or ill intent kind of access, but also accidental access or exposure. We wanted to basically relieve researchers of the responsibility from having to come up with this security on their own, and for the institution to assume that responsibility and to do a lot of that heavy lifting for researchers. We also wanted, there's a natural benefit, as I kind of alluded to, that there's no long-term commitment to hardware, software, people that researchers would need to make, the institution was bearing that responsibility to create a common platform that would service the needs of a wide variety of research activities. Next slide. Okay, so the number one thing that we wanted to make sure that the platform provided was widespread availability. We knew that just geography should not be a barrier. And so one of the fundamental pieces of technology that we leveraged in the secure research environment is a technology called Azure Virtual Desktop, which Braden is going to give a demo later. We're going to talk a lot about the rest of the presentation, but it's essentially a virtual desktop experience. And so we wanted to make that available really from anywhere in the world, so that we could reach the widest kind of spectrum of different use cases. On top of that, we wanted to make sure that, as I've mentioned, that whatever power, performance, storage, any other technical aspects of the actual computing platform was available, and we could bring it up, we could bring it down, we could right size it with very little preparation, and we could constantly change it depending on what people's needs were. And so over the course of these last, we're 2 years now, and Braden will get into the timeline of a little bit more, but we've effectively been live for about 2 years. We've learned a lot, and we've changed a lot, and we'll talk about that. But that has really bared fruit as far as making sure that having our environment hosted in the Microsoft Cloud, and giving us that flexibility that if and when, and it's more a when, not an if, we wanted to change it, we could do it easily. And so there's about 279 researchers, so we're approaching 300 researchers that have been using the SRE already successfully. And that is continuing to grow, as I'll get into in just a minute. I think the next slide. Our integration with RedCap has really sparked the adoption of late. But we have a nice core group of people using it, but we're prepared for an even greater number of people to join. So we're excited to have this opportunity today to get out in front of you and to do some marketing and some advertisement of this platform that a lot of people are already using very successfully. There's a guidebook that we've developed that's on the SIT's website. There's a link here on the screen. It really covers a lot of the same information that we've talked about already in the presentation, but it goes a little deeper. And there's some information in there that would, I think, be of particular interest for, that you might include when you're applying for a grant, to give some background about the platform. And it also links to our support. One of the things, and to kind of segue to that next line, one of the things that we do as people are getting started with the platform is we do an IT consult. And that's both to make sure that researchers know how to get into the environment and know how to get started. But we can also hear about their activities, what they're planning to do in the environment, and potentially if there's any things that we need to enhance or add or change about the environment. And that has been a regular thing. Again, I probably can't say it enough, is that there is a constant expected evolution of the SRE. And so just because it's not there today doesn't mean it can't be there tomorrow. And so that is a regular dialogue that we are trying to have with everyone that will listen to us, to hear what they want, what they need. And we have been very successful with our team, but also with our Microsoft partners, in figuring out how to bring a solution that can fit the different needs that people have. So we very much welcome any feedback that we can gather about what people are looking for. And so that kind of touches on, this last point here, where we really try to take the responsibility of the design and maintenance of the environment, and let researchers just concentrate on their research activities and not get bogged down in the IT aspects of what their needs are. Next slide. So this is kind of a graphical representation of what we're talking about. We have people at UMB, obviously, on campus, but off campus. We have people at the IHC. We have some folks from College Park. Really anywhere and everywhere, accessing the secure research environment today. And as Braden will show you, the most common interface with the secure research environment is really just a Windows desktop that will look very familiar to you. Now, there's a number of resources that are already part of the secure research environment, which were highlighted here, and we're going to go into in some of the other slides. We obviously, this is where we want the data to live. So the sensitive data sets. In this last year, we've really done quite a bit of activities in the HPC, high performance computing area, that's a relatively new area that we're getting into. The SRE integration is a more recent development, and we've have a lot of open AI and LLM integrations going on within the SRE. They're active and happening today. We can go, I think Braden is going to touch on that a little bit later when he talks about a few active projects. Next slide. All right, so let me dive into REDCap a little bit. I know there was a recent presentation to this group specifically about REDCap, but just in case folks weren't there or maybe didn't quite catch some of the intersection with the SRE. We do have a new and expanded REDCap program at UMB that actually supports all of UMB and UMCP faculty. We had last year, we worked to replace the entire College Park environment. That environment is actually now gone, and all the College Park people are accessing this new environment that we have hosted in Microsoft Cloud right now. And we're in the process of migrating the environment that IGS has hosted and Citrix has largely supported over the last quite a few years. There's a number of these projects that have already been migrated, but we're going to continue to do that. We don't have an exact timeline on that, but I would say it's going to be for the rest of this calendar year into the next. But that's happening and very actively happening. I think there's already been over 500 projects that have been migrated. So it's not something that we're just teasing out. It is absolutely something that is happening. And we're moving to the environment that is replacing these environments are on the latest version of REDCap. They're kind of state-of-the-art technology with more features and functionality than the other environments had. We also now are offering training and support at no cost. And so we're really trying to promote and grow the REDCap program overall between both universities. And so we have two different environments. One is integrated with the SRE and one is not. The one that is integrated with the SRE is targeted for anything, any data sets that involve UMS data from Epic or non-UMS medical records, but really any sensitive data belong into the SRE REDCap. The standard REDCap, and I'm sorry, the SRE REDCap is accessible exclusively from the SRE as a project administrator, as a PI. Now, it can service surveys to the general public, but getting to the data and actually working within the project is exclusively from within the SRE. We also have a standard REDCap where non-sensitive data sets would go, and projects that have non-sensitive data. And that's actually accessible from anywhere without the VPN. So it's really we have in our team, our RedCap team will work with you to determine the appropriate place for your project to live, and then set you off on how how you work in that environment. And I try to put down some of the different modules that we already have available, and some of them that are coming soon. The flight tracker I know is one that has been talked about for quite a while, and we're happy that we're getting closer to being able to offer that. Next slide. So Peter had mentioned that the IHC has obviously been very invested in the SRE from the very beginning. They were, I would say, the very first group that used it as their default platform for research right out of the gate. And we've learned a lot from that activities, and they really have, frankly, helped shape what the SRE looks like today. And they continue to be a major part of the SRE's overall usage. And they've had, Braden's going to talk about this in a few minutes, but they've had a number of very successful projects that have come out of the activities within the SRE, many of them related to AI. Next slide.
All
And hand
right.
this off to Braden.
Yep, I believe this one's on mine. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Dr. Murray, and thank you everyone for being here. Really appreciate it. So you've heard a lot about the SRE. So I'm going to pick it up by, how do we get started with it? Like, what does that actually mean? What does it mean? So the step one really is to have a goal, have a project in mind. Typically, SRE projects are associated with an IRB. Not always. Can't really think of a example where it's not, but that's how it goes. So you would essentially put in a request to get access to the SRE. That can be done by using either SRE-support for general SRE requests, or if it is specific to UMS data, EDA-research, and we'll go over that more farther down the line. Once that goes through, once we get the request, we will assign you some back-end components to it that will help make things easier, and I'll show those off in the demo. We'll make sure that you have a good understanding of how to use the tool. That's the IT, and that it's going to fit your needs. If it doesn't, and when I say it, I'm referring to our standard SRE host pool, we can create a custom compute solution. So say, for example, you have a need for a very specific version of a software, or you don't want to use Windows for a reason. That's going to be custom compute. But once we get all that taken care of, all that worked out, we'll then go over how to get into it, and that's going to be via cloud with, as Brian mentioned, Azure Virtual Desktop, AVD. There's a couple different ways to get into that, and I'll talk about that in the demo. And then we also need to get the data that you need into the SRE. The secure nature of the SRE does prohibit free flow of data in and out. There's a dedicated process both to get things in and to get things out. But once there's a variety of data analytics tools available to you that we can always add more. I have yet to find one that has not been compatible with the environment. So as you need them, just ask and we'll do what we can. Next slide, please. So to put some faces to the names we were hearing about, we have 279 active researchers utilizing the SRE. And that equates to about 138 projects. This is constantly changing, constantly growing. These numbers might already be out of date. They were up to date as of about 8 in the morning today, but they might be higher. And that's very exciting. So I wanted to take the time just to spotlight three of our projects going on there, all with the permissions of the researchers. The first one is Dr. Katie Goodman. She's been evaluating the potential of utilizing AI to parse through unstructured clinical data and to extract meaningful assets. Really means that she's pointing the AI at a bunch of clinical notes, other data, and just seeing what it can do with it and how valuable that is. And for every time I've talked to her, she's been very pleased with it. And I believe she will be having a study coming out explaining this in more detail and showcasing that it was very largely a success. So, good news. Dr. Marin, and she's from the IHC. Should have mentioned that. Dr. Marin is also from the IHC. He has numerous SRE projects. I believe he has the most of anyone else. But this one in particular, he's looking into demographic and clinical characteristics of patients with pulmonary hypertension in Maryland to try to better understand and inform the various nuances of the disease. And then finally, the last showcase we have here is from Dr. Unick from the School of Social Work, where he is looking at documenting the effectiveness of peer recovery coaches in an emergency department setting. So obviously very important work to be done, and we're proud that we're able to provide an environment that allows them to do so. And this is just a very small portion. I mean, this is 3 out of close to 300, and it's constantly growing. Next slide, please. So this is where we have the demo. So I'm going to take over the screen share here real quick. I'm just going to show you how to log in, kind of what it's all about, go over some of the stuff, and then I'll hand it back over. So bear with me while I pull that up. One moment, my screen is moved. All right, so I hope everyone can see it. If you cannot, please let me know. But I'm going to be using the web portal to log into the SRE. This is an identical experience to utilizing the desktop app, the Windows app. You can also use the remote desktop app, but we don't recommend that because it's going away next year. So once you're in here, you sign in using your UMaryland account. This is particularly relevant if you're within SOM, as SOM accounts don't currently work natively. Not that you can't do it, make that very clear. It's just that we have to do some IT magic. So we sign in with our UMaryland account and we locate the host pool, UMB SRE of the Security Research Environment. I'm going to hit connect. And we're going to connect. And please let me know if we lose at any time. I'll input my password. Really putting the secure in SRE here. Oh, and I typed it wrong. So one moment, apologies. There we go. We're going to hit OK. It's just going to give you some information, restarts on the weekends, yada, yada. And then it's going to prompt me for MFA. So really, really making sure that the secure and secure research environment is capitalized. So I'm going to prompt approve, and that's going to log me in. And as you might notice right off the bat, it really is just a Windows 11 desktop. So we're in here, but there is one key difference that you'll notice pretty quickly when using it. If I were to pull up Microsoft Edge and try to go to Google, it's going to spin for a hot second, and then it's going to tell me it can't reach it. And that's because by default, outbound and inbound traffic to the SRE is blocked. That helps maintain our security. It's very important to the concept of the SRE. However, doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You've heard a lot about RedCap being in the SRE. Well, I have great news. You can get to RedCap in the SRE. So Google, no. RedCap, yes. If there's something you need for the SRE, in the SRE, let's have a discussion about it. We can try to make it work. And if it doesn't work generally, as in we don't want to open it up for everybody, custom compute's always an option. So I'm going to just showcase a general use of using the SRE. So I logged in, let's pretend I'm a researcher, and I have our test project here. So the first thing I'm going to go is open up the ingress folder. The ingress folder is the landing zone for any data that we need to bring into the SRE for your various projects. I have created a sample data set here. Let's just pretend that it was brought in from outside and pull it up. And as we can see here, we have some patient notes, or what I imagine patient notes look like. I'm not a doctor. But so we have Bruce Wayne, Luke Skywalker, Paul Atreides, and Peter Parker, and they all have various reasons for coming in and seeing us today. So just for the interest of time, I've also created a redacted version of this. So the point of the SRE is to be able to work with sensitive information. Once we're done with that, we have to get it out, and we have to make sure the minimal amount of info gets out. We don't want everyone's names. We don't want, only the information you need to leave will leave. And that is done by a manual process by the honest broker reviewing it. So I've gone through and redacted all of their names and created a separate copy of it so that we have both versions. So now we have it, we're good to go, we're happy, we want to get it out so we can add it to a research paper. So I'm then going to take a copy, and then I'm going to open up our egress folder. The egress folder will always have this arrow, so just to reinforce. And as you can see, there's already some stuff in there, but let's just get rid of this, for sake of simplicity. and we pasted in our redacted names. At this point, I'm going to send an email to the honest broker. We're going to pretend it's OMS because that's probably 90%. So EDA-research at umaryland.edu or UMM.edu. I have it later, I promise. I'll show you the right email and say, hey, I'm finished with the work. I have placed data ready to be exported. Please export it at your leisure. At that time, they'll go through, they will open up this file and make sure that it's safe to release, and then initiate a pipeline that will move this data from here, from this folder, into a Teams channel that we set up during your initial configuration. That Teams channel is your landing zone for both getting data in and getting data out. There's also an automated process. And just one thing I'm going to note real quick. We really strongly recommend making copies for the egress folder because once it moves, it's gone. So if you had the original data in there and it gets approved to be released, it will be taken out, and then you'll have to go through the process of getting it brought back in. Just an aside. While I'm in here, I do just want to quickly showcase all of the different things that we have available already. Things are growing constantly. We have over 1,100 Python packages, I believe, a lot of R libraries. We have numerous data analytics tools. You see, we have multiple versions of Python, R, RStudio, SigmaPlot, Slicer, Stata, SAS is in here. Just a lot of stuff, anything useful, and we can always add more. So again, this is really all the SRE is. It's just a Windows 11 desktop. We wanted this to be as familiar to you as possible and as easy to use as possible. So not to belabor a point, I'm going to stop my screen share now because that's really is the demo of using it. You get in, you do what you have to do, and then you get out. The advantage, of course, it being cloud, access it from anywhere, and you're not restricted by your physical hardware. So I'm going to log out. It's very important. I'm going to sign out here, and I'm going to give up my screen share to go back to the presentation. But hopefully that demystified the SRE for you all a little bit. It's not just like this unknowable piece of software. It really is just a desktop for you to use and for your benefit. Next slide, please. And at this point, I'm going to hand it back to Dr. Coates.
All right, thank you. So I think we've actually hit on quite a bit of this. There's a number of AI tools and capabilities within the SRE already. We have both what Braden showed was the standard shared access, but we also have HPC, high performance computing, and custom compute available for specialized needs. The managed open access is Braden also kind of hit on that, which is the if we need to have some type of access that isn't compatible with our standard, we can accommodate, but it's just in a different way, in a different environment. RedCap was mentioned as well. We have the SRE RedCap access that's available that you can import the data, export the data directly from that Windows desktop. And something that we've been trying to do is mentioned as well is we're continually trying to have presentations like this. We're trying to create a community forum. We're trying to get out and market and hear from people what they need as much as we possibly can. So this is one of many efforts that we're making to let people know what the SRE is, what it's about, how you use it, and then trying to hear what they want and what they need and what their questions are to make sure that we have addressed them. And lastly, we do have a governance council with pretty wide representation across the schools already that we're using to talk about strategically what is the direction of the SRE for the university. And that has been meeting for over a year and continues to meet every 2 weeks to where we're reviewing what's underway today and what is coming down the line. Next slide.
All right, so I'm going to handle what's coming down the line. We have some very exciting things coming. Namely, first and foremost, is this data mover tool that we've been developing. This is a custom-made application that we're developing with Microsoft, we being SRE IT. And as I'm sure you picked up on while we were talking about it, a lot of the data moving happens outside of your control. We don't want that to be the case. We want to give you guys some autonomy, and we want to make it as easy for you as possible. Like, one thing that I really hope everyone gets out of this is that at the end of the day, the SRE is for you guys. And we want to make it work for you. And that's why it's so great that it's in the cloud, because we can always make these changes. We can always try to make it better. And we can also adapt on the fly. It's an evolution. It's really like, you know, I heard a living document. It's a living system. So Data Mover would allow researchers and authorized members of their team to utilize this tool that we're building to either upload into the SRE or to egress out of it. You might be asking, how is that safe? How is that secure? That's the whole point of the SRE, right? Which is a great question. There's an AI that is scanning these documents. To be very clear, it is not storing what it's put into. It's not going to be used for training other AIs. It's looking at it, making a judgment about whether or not it is safe to release, and then it's forgetting about it. We have a very clear contract with Microsoft about that. I just don't want anyone to be worried about it. At that point, it'll either be approved, denied, or need to have a manual review. It does that when it's unsure. It has to have an accuracy threshold, and if it doesn't meet that, it puts it into manual review, at which point the normal process will take up. But we anticipate that this will, at the very least, reduce the burden on the honest brokers and speed things up for everybody. We anticipate the tool being done by the end of October. We're in the final stretches of it. We have the getting data out portion locked down. It's the getting data in that we're working on now, and of course pending approval from various parties. But it's well on the way. I'm sure you guys have heard about this tool a lot for the past year. And I'm just going to say definitively, we are really close. We're so close, and we're all very excited about the tool. In terms of HPC bursting, this is expanding an already existing HPC cluster that IGS has into the cloud for when their on-premises devices and hardware are overwhelmed and they need a little bit more help. So this, as you can see on the screen, is anticipating adding an additional 30% of capacity to these workloads. This is, we have a complete by the end date of April. Might be sooner than that, but we're working with a vendor on this, and this will be great because this will be used as a model going forward for other similar scenarios. And it's also a great proof of concept that HPC can work in this lockdown environment. The shock trauma platform is utilizing some federated learning tools to analyze a bunch of trauma data, large images, things like that. This has been an ongoing project, but it is scheduled to be completed in the next month or so. I believe the researcher that is heading this effort is very pleased with what we've done so far and will continue to do so. And then the last thing to showcase is similar, and this is just large files of clinical imaging files, which, as I'm sure a lot of you may know, get very large. There's a lot to parse through, there's a lot of information in there, and we're hoping to allow the SRE to be a tool to make that process more streamlined, more consistent, more accurate, more powerful. So very exciting stuff, and there's more coming as well, but this is just some of the highlights. Next slide, please. All right. And then what is next? So one of the things we're working on is something called purview and sensitivity labels to automatically or manually apply a label onto a file or data set that will then give it different rules that need to be adhered to. The advantage of this is that it would allow the SRE as a boundary to expand, and it can provide more flexibility. And also, if nothing else, it's just an additional layer of security. So for example, we could put a sensitivity label on something that says, outside the SRE, it can only be viewed if you're on the campus network and you're one of these people. In the SRE, it can be edited if you're in the SRE only the SRE, and you're one of the following people. And I think it's pretty self-evident the benefits of being able to do that. It just really adds flexibility, and it's something that I am personally very excited for. More to come on that. We're going to keep working on it. We're also going to be introducing some geocoding APIs that are hosted by UMMS that will expand just the general capabilities of the SRE into this. And this is also the first of many of what we hope are many other API integrations into it using a service known as API Manager. We also plan on adding Linux as a custom compute offering. We are well aware that a lot of researchers prefer to use Unix-based systems. I get it. I personally do as well. Just in my personal computer, I prefer it. And we want to make sure, because it's for you, it's what you need it to be. So we're going to be working on that. We anticipate that being off the ground by the end of the year. We're also working with another researcher about radiology image analysis. This is going to be introducing a GPU into the environment. It currently does not have one, but that will expand. All these are about expansion, right? Making it better, it's evolving. So that's going to add that capability to it. And then the last one is we've been talking about allowing access to Google Cloud, or at the very least being able to get data from Google Cloud into the SRE. Next slide, please. And this one.
Thanks, Braden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it from here. Yeah, and we'll get through these last few slides pretty quickly so we can have some time for questions. But as you've heard, the SRE is operating successfully. There's a growing number of faculty researchers using it, and nearly every week, new features and technology are being added, including AI tools. It is the university-sponsored computing environment for performing research, and it is required for any faculty who is using sensitive data when undertaking their research, unless of course, there is a compelling reason why the SRE cannot be used for a particular research project. We're continuing to expand the support for the SRE. We're continuing to balance security and flexibility for faculty in using the SRE, and continuing to promote the SRE as the environment for supporting research at UMB, in the IHC, and for collaboration beyond UMB. And as an aside, as I mentioned earlier, other USM institutions have contacted us to learn about the SRE and are now replicating what we have done here at UMB. And lastly, very importantly, this environment was created for faculty to help faculty perform their research. It is their environment, and we make improvements based on their ideas and requests. Faculty no longer have to buy expensive servers, hire systems administrators, or worry about protecting sensitive data that they use for their research projects. We are very excited about making future improvements and advancements with the help of faculty researchers, and we welcome faculty research input and suggestions for achieving new successes with the SRE. Next slide, please.
All right, so back to me on this one. Hello again, everybody. So this is just a brief timeline of how the SRE developed. Back in the summer of 2022, it was conceived from a variety of meetings with University of Pittsburgh, Microsoft, and a few other universities. From there, up until the winter, UMB SITS was designing and developing what will become the SRE. From January to August is when we really started pushing it, and we had a pilot program with some volunteer researchers, and special shout out to those people. We really appreciate that. We wouldn't be where we are without you. In September, we had our first go live deployment for UMB and IHC, and I believe it was for an IHC research project. And then finally, today and beyond, I hope it's clear by this point, we're just making it better. We want it to be what you need it to be. We want it to be a tool, an asset, and we will continue to work at that and making it as, yeah. So it's just, next slide, please. So I mentioned before some emails that you might need to know about getting started. You're going to get these emails with them. But SRE support is for general questions, issues, requests, general inquiries. And if you specifically need UMMS and EPIC related data, that's going to be eda-research@umm.edu. And then next slide, please. Thank you, everybody. And now we are ready for questions. I don't know the format for that.
Hi, Braden.
Yep.
I can help with that.
Thank you.
Just Let me scroll up because we have quite a few questions here. Just want to start off with someone who's asking, can you talk a little about what makes the SRE more secure than cloud-based OneDrive and SharePoint? And second part to that question is, when is it still appropriate to still use OneDrive, SharePoint, and when should people switch to the SRE for like non-OMS data?
So OneDrive and SharePoint are secure environments. So I don't want anybody to get the thought that they aren't, but they are. They are really good environments, primarily for files, especially OneDrive, your personal files to go into that secure environment. What we're talking about with the SRE are really data sets, data in particular, things that you would use to do analyses that wouldn't really be the right place to do it in OneDrive. But those environments are secure. But the SRE is another layer where we didn't have an environment where faculty researchers could store their data sets, use compute power, and the software needed to do analyses. It's just another layer or another platform that we're using for security purposes.
And if I could add to that really quickly, to echo what Dr. Murray said, OneDrive is secure. However, like most cloud based technologies, they are as secure as you configure them to be. And because of the nature of the data sets that we're focusing on for the SRE, especially initially, we did not want to put those restrictions on the general OneDrive application so that everybody would be affected by them. So the SRE allowed us to have that environment with additional security layers as necessary without affecting other people in general daily use.
So another question is the SRE only for UMB researchers who want to use data from EPIC?
No, the SRE is for all PII. Sorry if that impression was just for EPIC data. No, it's for all PII. And our definition of PII, which we follow, is the Maryland state definition, which of course includes protected health information, but it's much more than that. It could be social security numbers or driver's license or other PII that was noted on that slide that was shown earlier.
I think we also think of it as confidential information that you wouldn't want to be out there in the public. And so having that in this environment helps protect that kind of information as well. But if it's the other part of that question, is it only for UMB researchers? And I know that another question here is, can the PI request access for members of their team? The PI may not be the main person doing the data analysis. And so with that, I just want to add onto this to clarify, is it only for UMB or can it be accessed by UMB partners?
Yes, it can be accessed by UMB partners. We actually have a number of people from College Park that are utilizing the SRE. And then, I'm sorry, could you repeat the first question, Wanda? I apologize. I had it and I lost it.
Well, the part of it was that we were talking about the SRE only for UMB researchers who want to use data from EPIC. So it's not restricted just to EPIC data. We're also looking at non-OMS medical record information as possibly being sensitive and confidential and providing that environment. So it's not just restricted to just EPIC data, but also this when it says UMB researchers, and that's when I wanted to highlight, because the next question is, can the PI request access for members of their team? The PI may not be the main person doing the data analysis. So with that, we're talking about other team members having access to this. Plus, it could be outside UMB partners like College Park or UMBC.
Yes, absolutely. They absolutely can. It's just a matter of them being on the IRB and being requested. We have a number of projects that work just like that. Actually, Jay Unix, his assistant, Yali, does a lot of the analysis on the SRE. I think she's in there daily. So it really just comes down to getting them on the IRB for approval and then asking.
So I'm just scrolling down this list here. Another question is, does UMMC and we're talking about just the hospital, are they required to use the SRE to conduct business that needs to view access record data from Epic?
I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the question is, but of course, folks, if they have authorization to see Epic data, they certainly can use it. And of course, they can have access to the SRE if they need to do their analyses in that environment. So I don't know.
I think the question is if anyone is using Epic data, including someone from UMMC for TPO, treatment, payment, operations, or quality improvement, are they required?
Oh, so that's like business purposes.
Right.
Right, so they wouldn't use the SRE. The SRE is for research and analyses. If they need to access Epic to do their job for some administrative or business purpose, that would be different.
Okay. And this is just a quick question about the governance council, whether they have members from the sponsored human subjects research community. Does it include members from that community?
I don't know who's in the community. I mean, I'm sure there's a number of senior researchers on the governance council. I'm not sure if they're part of that community or not. So, Brian, do you have any idea if they're? I don't know if they are or not, Wanda.
Okay. I'm just kind of scrolling through some of the questions. One of them, I'm looking at the time that it's already 1 p.m. And one of the questions here from Dr. Wong. Dr. Wong, I'm wondering if your question, we can perhaps look at that offline. You have two parts to this. You're saying you're reading and doing I am a reading and analysis center for brain images from 4 outside U.S. Universities. How can the SRE be used to receive non-PHI data ushered in used by these imaging centers to me and later downloaded to my existing secure server already in UMB? Can the SRE be capable of eventually scrubbing image headers, for example, PET and MRI images from these centers if it contained PHI by chance?
I think that's a great use case, and I would recommend that we have a conversation, an IT consult, to talk about all the nuances and requirements that are proposed.
And it looks like Dr. Wong has some other questions as well. And Dr. Wong, I'm going to direct you to the emails that I posted in the chat. You can email the sre-support@umaryland.edu. They may be able to establish that consult for you. There was another question. Can the SRE REDCap be accessed directly from another data collection site? I think that that's pretty right. And my understanding is that you can only access the SRE REDCap from the SRE environment. So
my
I'm wondering,
understanding, it would require an export, at least in the current configuration. However, I just want to, with the caveat that I'm not a REDCap admin.
Well, I
Yeah.
can say quickly. I mean, there's kind of two sides to this, right? When we say access REDCap, as someone that can access the project itself, that would need to be done from within the SRE. The surveys that make up potentially a part of the project, those can be accessed from other places.
okay. So there's a question here. If non-PII EPIC data is needed, does the SRE need to be used?
So it's not sensitive data? Is that the question?
Well, it says non-PII EPIC data, and maybe I can address this because my understanding of the data use agreement is even de-identified EPIC data that's being used for research must go into the SRE. So in that case, a fully de-identified data set would not have PII, but UMS does require it to be in the SRE environment. Um, I'm just going back through. I think we've covered most of the questions here.
All right, thank you, Wanda.
Oh, this is a good one that maybe we could take offline. It is about what about drug trials whose sponsors need to check data?
I would just suggest we take it offline. I don't know that I have an immediate answer for that. I need to know more.
More information, yes.
But yeah, we can bring that to the Red Cap team.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And to our 3 panelist members, we really appreciated you taking the time to bring this to us. And especially the demonstration as well. That's been a big mystery to me and really appreciated that the little bit of insight. Thank you, Braden, for that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Davis.
Yeah, thank you.
Wanda, appreciate it.
Everyone, we're going to let you go. Have the rest of your afternoon and grab some lunch. And it was really nice that you took the time out to be at our presentation. Thank you.
Thank you,
Great.
everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.